So I want you to take a second and picture the sun you drew as a kid.
Oh, yeah, always that big, happy yellow circle in the corner of the page.
Right. You grab a crayon, it's probably this really warm, deep, vibrant yellow.
Exactly.
But like, if you walk outside today, assuming the sky is clear and just look up,
Mm.
you might notice something genuinely unsettling.
It's not yellow.
No, the sun isn't yellow anymore. It's just this blinding, piercing, burning white. And that shift isn't just a trick of the light, you know?
Really is.
Millions of people are actually starting to notice that the fundamental mechanics of our world, from the color of the sky to the way insects hunt to the very way we perceive time, it all feels fundamentally broken.
Well, we really rely on a baseline reality to function on a day-to-day basis. Gravity pulls down, the seasons follow a predictable cycle, the sky is blue.
Right, the absolute basics.
Exactly. And when those environmental anchors start drifting, it creates this subtle but really persistent cognitive dissonance.
Okay, let's unpack this, because today's deep dive is centered on a really fascinating piece of source material that captures that exact dissonance.
It really hits the nail on the head.
It does. It's a YouTube video from a channel called Non-Native Entrepreneur, and it's titled, "Something is Seriously Off and Millions Are Noticing."
Yeah, that title definitely grabs you.
For sure. So your mission today, as you're listening to this, is to explore this growing collective sentiment of unease with us. We are looking at a feeling that the fundamental rules of our environment and our daily reality have quietly but drastically shifted.
And the perspective of this creator is really what makes the analysis so worthwhile.
Definitely. He's not coming at this from like a lab.
Right. He's originally from Poland, currently living in the UK, and he is not approaching this from some peer-reviewed scientific background, and he's not pushing a specific activist agenda either.
Which is so rare these days.
It really is. He is simply cataloging everyday ground-level observations that his massive audience is actually corroborating in the comments.
The best analogy for the feeling he describes, I think, is that it's like living inside a massive software program.
Oh, I like that comparison.
Right. Like for our whole lives, we knew the mechanics, we knew how to play the game. But recently, it feels as if the system received this massive, unannounced patch update.
And now all the familiar mechanics are glitching out.
Exactly. Everything is glitching.
But before we dig into those specific glitches, we really need to establish a strict neutrality check here.
Yes, very important.
The source material touches on highly polarized subjects. I mean, the creator mentions extreme weather, climate anomalies, and he even acknowledges that his audience frequently brings up geoengineering or cloud seeding conspiracies.
Like it's heated fast.
It does. So let's be completely clear for everyone listening. We are entirely impartial here. We are not endorsing any conspiracy theories, nor are we taking a side on global political climate agendas.
Right. No sides being taken today.
We are purely examining what this creator is observing, the potential mechanisms behind those observations, and why it is causing such widespread disorientation.
That neutrality is so vital because, I mean, the moment you bring up the weather these days, people's political offenses just immediately go up.
Oh, instantly.
But if we strip the politics away, we are left with just the raw human experience. And the creator starts with the most inescapable visual shifts in our reality, which is the sky.
Ooh, the sky's the biggest one.
Yeah. He points out that going outside doesn't feel like stepping into a gentle, warming sunlight anymore. It feels intensely hot, like almost aggressive.
It's a harsh light now.
Yes, harsh. And the sky itself has lost that deep, vibrant blue. It's been replaced by this whitish, almost milky blue haze.
Atmospheric science actually provides a pretty clear mechanism for why people might be experiencing this specific visual shift.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So the deep blue color of the sky we are used to is caused by something called Rayleigh scattering. That's where gases in the atmosphere scatter short blue wavelengths of sunlight.
Okay, so that's the normal baseline.
Right. But when you introduce more particulate matter or increased water vapor from higher global temperatures or different atmospheric aerosols, you get what's called MIE scattering.
MIE scattering.
MIE scattering, yeah. This type of scattering affects all wavelengths of light equally, so it washes out the deep blue and creates that bright, milky white glare.
Wow, okay, that completely explains why the sun feels blinding rather than warming.
Exactly.
It's essentially shining through a totally different atmospheric filter. And it's not just the color, though. He specifically points out the clouds.
Oh, the square clouds.
Yes. He describes waking up to a clear sky only to watch these weird, geometrical, almost grid-like foggy patterns roll in. He says he literally looks up and sees squares.
Which is wild.
Right. We all remember looking for fluffy shapes as kids, like dragons or castles in the clouds. Looking up at a grid pattern in the sky is just inherently jarring to the human brain.
Well, geometric patterns in nature almost always trigger a double take because natural fluid dynamics usually produce fractal, chaotic shapes.
Those straight lines in the sky look completely wrong.
Totally wrong. Whether those straight lines are formed by intercepting jet contrails spreading out in that altered upper atmosphere or just unusual high-altitude wind shears, the result is an artificial-looking sky. It alienates the observer.
It feels fake. And beyond the visual changes, the physical weather is behaving completely erratically.
Yeah, the breakdown of the seasons.
Right. The creator notes the absolute breakdown of the traditional 4 seasons. He contrasts 2 events happening at the exact same time in Europe. Over in the UK, they are enduring a second brutal heat wave within a single month.
Which is completely unprecedented for them.
Yeah, and because UK infrastructure just wasn't built for that kind of heat, almost no homes have air conditioning over there. People are literally unable to function or even work.
Meanwhile, he looks at his home country of Poland. It's peak summer, and families have booked their vacations to the Baltic Sea months in advance.
Expecting normal summer weather.
Exactly. But instead of summer sunshine, they are getting hit with gale force winds. The sea is surging so violently that vacationers are literally wearing heavy winter hoodies on the beach.
In the middle of summer.
In the middle of summer. He also catalogs uncharacteristic tornadoes and earthquakes in Central Europe. The predictable rhythm of spring, summer, autumn, and winter has essentially been replaced by a chaotic roll of the dice.
Okay, but I have to push back on this a little bit.
Sure, go ahead.
Because human memory is notoriously unreliable, When I first read his observations, my instinct was to dismiss a lot of it as nostalgia.
The old rose-tinted glasses effect.
Yeah, exactly. We always remember our childhood summers as endless, perfect, and sunny, mostly because we were kids without responsibilities.
That's a very fair point.
And think about looking at old photographs or movies from the 70s and 80s. The actual film stock naturally makes everything look warmer, softer, and more yellow. Are we simply letting nostalgia cloud our memory of how the baseline world actually looked?
It's funny you say that because the creator actually anticipates that exact skepticism in the video.
Oh, he does?
He does. He totally acknowledges that it sounds like the classic, back in my day, the grass was greener argument.
So how does he counter it?
Well, to counter that, he doesn't ask his viewers to rely on 30-year-old childhood memories. He challenges them to pull out their digital photos from just 5 or 10 years ago.
Oh, wow. Just 5 years ago.
Yeah, he wants them to objectively compare the colors of the sky, the vibrancy of the trees, and the quality of the light on their smartphones to what they see outside today.
Oh, that completely changes it. Narrowing the timeline that much totally undercuts the nostalgia argument.
It really does.
Because if the change is clearly visible in a smartphone photo from, 2018, that's not generational nostalgia. That is a sudden, massive environmental rewrite.
And that suddenness is the critical factor causing all this collective unease.
How so?
Think about it. If an environment shifts slowly over 100 years, human perception adapts gradually across generations. It just feels natural.
You barely notice it.
Right. But the creator is pointing out that these extreme changes have seemingly solidified within just the last few years.
It's too fast.
Way too fast. When your environment alters its fundamental rules within a 24 to 60-month window, the brain registers it as a threat. It processes the change as an anomaly or a glitch rather than natural evolution.
A threat. Wow. But a sudden rewrite of the physical environment doesn't just change the color of the sky, though. It immediately breaks the biological clock of everything living beneath it.
Which brings us right down to ground level.
Exactly. Which brings us to the creator's observations about the bugs in the grass and the air in our lungs.
Right, because altered light and temperature patterns are the primary cues for the entire ecosystem.
And when those cues misfire, the biology just reacts unpredictably.
Precisely.
The creator notes this terrifying divergence in the insect population. The good insects, specifically pollinators like bees, are just vanishing.
Which is devastating.
It is. In a place like the UK, which is dealing with these long, dry, unprecedented summers, the lack of pollinators is a severe threat to basic agriculture. But while the beneficial insects disappear, the pests are absolutely thriving.
Oh, the ticks.
Yes. He highlights a massive increase in ticks globally. He even stops to ask his American audience to confirm rumors of a U.S. tick epidemic.
And the proliferation of those pests is a direct consequence of the broken seasons we were just talking about.
Because they aren't dying off in the winter.
Exactly. Ticks and similar parasites rely on mild conditions to reproduce. Historically, a harsh, predictable winter freeze acts as a natural reset button for parasite populations.
It kills them off.
Yes. Without that deep freeze, their breeding cycle is uninterrupted. That leads to exponential population growth and geographic expansion into areas that used to just be too cold for them.
That makes total sense. But his observation about mosquitoes is where it gets really interesting to me.
The indoor mosquitoes.
Yes. He points out that they seem to have changed their fundamental hunting strategy. Like, they used to just be an evening nuisance by the lake. Now he describes them as acting trained.
Trained is such a creepy word for it.
It really is. He says they fly into a house and just wait. They hide for days, surviving longer, just waiting for the optimal moment to strike you while you sleep.
And they're showing up way out of season, too.
Right, in the middle of autumn or winter. When I read that, I immediately thought of playing a video game where the developers suddenly patch the enemy AI to be smarter and more aggressive. It's like they've learned our habits.
Well, it's tempting to personify them as smarter or trained, but what we are actually witnessing is just rapid evolutionary pressure happening in real time.
Real-time evolution.
Yes. In the absence of seasonal predictability, traditional mosquito behavior like swarming openly at dusk might become less viable.
So they change tactics.
Well, the bugs that survive are simply the ones with genetic variations that drive them indoors where the climate is controlled. You are seeing the hyper-adaptation of an insect forced to navigate a totally erratic environment.
So they aren't getting smarter. The environment is just killing off the dumb ones faster, leaving us with these relentless indoor survivors.
Exactly.
And this loss of predictability doesn't just create super pests. It directly sabotages our human immunity as well.
Because our bodies are just as tethered to the environment as the insects are, we are not separate from the ecosystem, even if we act like it.
The creator talks about a phenomenon that I think a lot of people listening will instantly recognize. He calls it the human glitch.
The summer flu.
Yes, people are suddenly coming down with full-blown aggressive flu symptoms in the middle of a hot summer. And conversely, during the winter, he describes enduring these strange, lingering sicknesses.
The ones that just won't go away.
Right. As a content creator, his voice is his livelihood. And he notes getting sore throats and runny noses that aren't aggressively painful, but they stick around for 3 or 4 weeks.
Completely defying normal rest.
Exactly. Completely defying rest or home remedies. It isn't allergies. It's this low-grade sickness that simply refuses to leave the body.
Well, to understand why that's happening, we have to look at circannual rhythms.
Circannual, like circadian.
Similar, yes. Just like we have a circadian rhythm that dictates our daily sleep cycle, our bodies have a yearly biological clock.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, the endocrine system, which regulates all our hormones, relies on seasonal shifts in temperature and sunlight exposure like changing vitamin D levels to allocate immune resources.
Wait, so our immune system physically changes its strategy based on what season it thinks it is?
Yes, exactly. The body prepares for different viral loads in December than it does in July.
That is fascinating.
So when the environment becomes chaotic, say, when you experience an 80-degree heat wave in October or a freezing storm in May, those biological rhythms misfire.
The body gets confused.
Completely. The immune system becomes untethered from its environmental cues. Your body is effectively trying to fight a winter viral battle with a summer immune response.
Which doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. That mismatch leads to persistent low-grade inflammation and vulnerability, resulting in these weird sicknesses that drag out for weeks on end.
Wow. And you can't have an entire biological system in a state of constant low-grade distress without it heavily taxing human endurance.
It takes a huge toll.
If our bodies are exhausted from fighting summer flus and hyper-adapted mosquitoes, our cognitive resources are naturally going to take a massive hit.
Absolutely.
Which perfectly frames the most profound psychological toll the creator discusses, the perception of time.
This was the most relatable part for me.
Same here. He identifies this universal demographic spanning sensation that time is moving at an impossible speed. He talks to people of all ages, and the consensus is identical everywhere.
Everyone feels it.
He says weeks feel like a single day. Months just blur together. People go to work, pay their bills, and suddenly look up to realize half a year has just vanished.
It's disorienting.
It is. And this acceleration leaves his audience with a pervasive feeling of emptiness. He describes modern society as existing rather than living.
Which is a heartbreaking way to put it.
It really is.
Yeah.
People are treating this current era as a temporary hardship,
Yeah.
just hunkering down and waiting to return to normal. But as he points out, this temporary holding pattern has been going on for over 5 years now.
Treating a half-decade as a temporary waiting period is a pretty fascinating psychological defense mechanism.
It is. I want to ask you, the listener, directly. Have you felt that feeling of holding your breath, waiting for a pause button that just never comes?
I'm sure most people nodding along right now.
I definitely struggled with this section initially, though. I wondered, are we just distracted?
By technology, you mean?
Yeah. Are smartphones and algorithmic social media the real culprits here?
Yeah.
Are we just scrolling our lives away so fast that we lose our grip on physical time?
Well, social media absolutely exacerbates distraction, no question, but it doesn't fully explain the depth of this temporal blurring.
So what does?
The root cause actually connects right back to that shifting environmental baseline we've been talking about. Chronic environmental and biological unpredictability breeds chronic anxiety.
Right.
If the brain is constantly processing erratic weather, economic instability, and new biological threats, it essentially enters survival mode.
It just stops planning for the future and braces for impact.
Exactly. And from a neurological standpoint, survival mode drastically alters how memory is encoded.
Really? How so?
So the amygdala, which handles threat detection, takes priority over the hippocampus, which forms rich, episodic memories.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. When you are just trying to navigate a chaotic week, avoid a weird summer flu, and pay the bills, your brain doesn't allocate energy to recording distinct, meaningful milestones.
It's just trying to get through the day.
Right. And without new, distinct memories being laid down, your retrospective perception of time just compresses.
It shrinks.
Yes. You look back at the past 6 months, and because your brain didn't record any unique anchors, those 6 months literally feel like they passed in a single afternoon.
That is a staggering realization. The clocks aren't ticking faster. Our brains are simply skipping the recording process because the cognitive load of navigating this glitching reality is just too high.
It's cognitive burnout.
And the most maddening part of experiencing that cognitive burnout is looking around realizing nobody is allowed to talk about it openly.
Yes, the silence in the middle.
The creator points out a profound silence in the middle of society. Instead of openly discussing these glaring physical and temporal anomalies, society is just normalizing them.
Because the public square has been entirely hijacked by the loudest extremes.
He maps out those extremes so clearly. On one side, you have activists screaming that we must instantly dismantle modern infrastructure, stop driving immediately, and destroy national economies to save the planet before Tuesday.
And then on the exact opposite side,
You have people burying their heads in the sand, aggressively claiming that absolutely nothing is wrong, everything is perfectly normal, and any observation of change is just a fabricated hoax.
right. And because those two polar opposites dominate every microphone and algorithm, the middle ground is totally eradicated.
Nobody wants to speak up.
Reasonable people become terrified to voice their everyday unease. The creator notes that simply saying, hey, the sky looks a little milky today and the mosquitoes are acting weird, instantly makes you a target.
It's like being trapped in a massive crowded room where a fire alarm is blaring at a deafening volume.
That's a great analogy.
Right. Half the room is aggressively drinking their coffee, pretending they don't hear a thing. The other half is having a violent fistfight over who manufactured the fire alarm.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, you were just standing in the center, wanting to tap someone on the shoulder and ask, hey, does anyone else hear that loud noise?
But you can't.
No, because you'll either be attacked as a radical doom-monger or dismissed as a crazy conspiracy theorist.
And this dynamic highlights a critical flaw in how humans process collective change. The creator's plea in this video is surprisingly modest.
He just wants to talk.
He just wants open dialogue. He wants to have a conversation with his neighbors without it devolving into an ideological battle. When reasonable discourse is suppressed by the fear of being labeled, it creates a massive intellectual vacuum.
And vacuums always get filled by something worse.
Invariably. When rational people stop talking, wild speculation rushes in.
Yep.
If someone can't openly discuss why they've had a lingering sickness for a month or why the clouds look geometric, they will retreat to the fringes of the internet.
To find answers anywhere they can.
Exactly. They find isolated echo chambers that offer easy, extreme explanations. Eradicating the middle ground doesn't stop people from noticing the glitches in reality. It just forces them to process that disorientation alone.
Which just amplifies the collective anxiety. So what does this all mean for us? We've taken a deep dive today into one creator's articulation of a shifting reality. We've examined the atmospheric mechanisms that might turn our yellow sun into a blinding white glare.
And the evolutionary pressures creating hyper-adapted pests.
Right. We've explored how a chaotic environment untethers our immune systems, and how the resulting chronic stress forces our brains to literally stop recording time.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. But the creator doesn't just leave his audience drowning in that anxiety. He offers some incredibly practical, actionable advice.
Yes, he encourages his audience to actively document their surroundings.
He says, take pictures today, compare them to your photos from 5 years ago. But more importantly, build a new baseline.
Start a list.
Exactly. Make a physical list of the anomalies you were noticing in your own backyard. Write them down, and then consciously check back in a year.
See if the sky regains its blue.
Observe if the weather stabilizes, or if the patterns deteriorate further. It is a brilliant way to reclaim your own perception. It forces your brain out of that blurry survival mode by planting a stake in the ground.
And that act of documentation leads to one final, deeply profound thought drawn from a passing observation the creator made.
Oh, this part really got to me.
He briefly wonders how terrifying this entire experience must be for someone who is 70 or 80 years old, looking at a world they no longer recognize.
That specific detail really anchored this whole deep dive for me.
Think about what that implies for the concept of generational wisdom. Throughout human history, our survival has depended on elders passing down a stable baseline of knowledge.
Like farming or predicting weather.
Right. They teach the next generation how to read the clouds to predict a storm, when the frost will thaw so crops can be planted, how the local wildlife behaves. That inherited, reliable knowledge is the bedrock of civilization.
But if the fundamental mechanics of the Earth have rewritten themselves in just the last half-decade, what happens when the older generation's baseline reality ceases to exist?
It becomes obsolete.
Their instruction manual was written for a version of the world that we simply don't live in anymore.
Which leaves us facing a monumental question. Are we the first generation in modern history that has to completely relearn how to live on our own planet from scratch?
Because when the massive software update deletes the old instruction manual, you either figure out the new mechanics or you get left behind in the glitch. Take that thought with you today.